Easter long weekend, and I've pretty much done the recladding of this side. Had to fix a few of the studs up in there, but that's all good. I started this project a couple of weeks ago. Let's go back and have a quick look at that. Well, we've had visitors up at the house for a couple of days over the long weekend. Just starting to take some of the cladding off there. Stephen's going to shoot through shortly with Mandy. I'll continue this to see how bad the white ant damage is. Hang around and see these wall panels come off. The aim here is to remove these 100-year-old boards without damaging them too much. When I'm putting them on the ground, I also lay them in the order that they came off so that they can go back in the same place. With all the old weatherboards off, it's time to try and straighten up the old floor and remove those stumps that are rotten. Well, I've pulled off all the wood on this side of the building. You can see where white ants have got into the wood at some time. This part definitely had white ants in it. A bit of damage done to that beam there. Most of them aren't too bad actually. Quick way to tell is with crowbar. The piece of wood I was worried about was this one here. It's definitely had signs of white ants in it, but it's not as bad as I thought it was. What was really eaten was this decorative trim on the edge. That's easy fixed. But you can see the separation between the main part of the building and this part. It gets worse as we go up, and you can see how much it's separated there. Now, it was once originally nailed, but what I think has happened is that down here it has sunk. I'm going to try and jack that board up and see what happens, and hopefully it takes that side of the building back against that side there. If that happens, that'll be cool, really cool. Anyway, I'm just going to tidy this up, rip out all these old nails and keep going. There's two things we found. One is this hunk of wood with, it looks like the key off some sort of tin, whether it's a sardine tin or I don't know, but it's been pulled off with that piece of wood. Wonder how long that's been floating around the old school for. And the other one, found another ball. Oh, that's hard. Possibly another cricket ball, shrunk. And that's behind those floorboards, so that's been there for a very long time. Well, this is a bit more difficult than I thought. Firstly, I've dug around a fair bit of the dirt out of here, and I've uncovered a spoon drain. That's the original height of the ground, and at some point in time there's been a lot of yellow sand being placed here along the edge of the building, and this is arguably what's caused the dirt to come up along the floorboards or the weatherboards, and that's where the white ants have got in. That should never have been allowed to happen. Anyway, I've pulled all the side off. The damage in here is not too bad. Yeah, there's some been in there, but that's okay. This board here is just about completely shot, so I need to pull these off and replace that. I've managed to jack it up a bit, well, actually a fair bit. You can see from that stump there how much I've lifted it up. Must be a good 2 inches, but it hasn't brought it any closer together along here. So I think I need at the base to shuffle that the baseboard across about half an inch and then try to straighten it up, and I'm not sure how to do that. But when you look back, this beam here is vertical at this point and then has a bit of a twist in it going straight up, and I think that's part of the reason why that top beam up there, that one there, has drifted that way a little bit. Anyway, a bit more work to do. Doesn't have to get finished today. Stephen and I are going to make a grass tree out of an old telegraph post and some old fencing wire. Well, it's Easter time. I'm back at the old school and I've arrived a couple of days before everybody else. It's time to unlock the old school and turn off the security system. Don't need anybody getting too panicked when I go inside. So I'm trying to get this timber to line up with the wall. The wall of the school is actually straight, this is crooked by about that much. The only problem is I can't knock it into place because the asbestos sheeting is holding it from going back. So trying to get the asbestos sheeting off so I can move that one single post means I have to move all of these shelves. So I've started splitting them apart. You can see how many nails there are there. So I'm going to take this asbestos sheet off, or try to anyway, and that way I can screw that post to the main wall of the school, and that will give me a start, and then I can put the asbestos sheet back on, and it should at least straighten that wall up a little bit. Moving these shelves is quite hard. They're all nailed in at the bottom down there. I've secured this upright against the schoolhouse itself with a bolt, but you can see that around about here the wood is actually twisted inwards, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that, whether I'll cut it off and put another piece there. But to put another bolt through, I'm going to have to take this piece of asbestos off. To take this bit of sheeting off, I've got to take the sunshade off. So let's get cracking into that. There is nothing particularly easy about working on a 100-year-old building with really old wood. I've managed to pull the post in a fair bit, but it's twisted, and I think it's because it's twisting up there. I'm going to try a little experiment. Made up a couple of brackets, and I'm going to see if I can screw these to either the main upright on the school and the beam going across the roof on the outhouse thing, whatever it's called, and see if I can pull that whole wall up the top back towards the school. Well, I've managed to close up the gap in the wood. It's still a bit twisted, but it's better than what it was. Anyway, now I can put the outer weatherboards back on and reclad it. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be looking okay from the outside. It's now time to remove some of these nails that have been in the wood for 100 years, and it's really hard. I'm doing this so that I can replace a couple of noggins that are no longer any good, and once that's done I should be able to continue on with putting the weatherboards back on the wall. Okay, I've got this board back in. This is the one that was eaten by white ants, and it's what the weatherboards butt up against on the two sections. I've got to make up a couple of noggins to go in here. Because the frame is slightly twisted and I've pulled this beam backwards, it's actually a greater distance between here. A couple of these pieces of wood are really bent over the years. There's not much I can do about it. I'm not going to. The sheeting inside will cover it up, and the main thing is it just looks okay.
Measure once, cut 600 times, and the noggins go back in.
Well, it's time to get some of these weatherboards back up onto the wall. I've straightened out the bottom frame. Haven't put stumps in. I found all of them were rotten, and I've used some bricks I found locally in the bush. And this goes with what we're doing is to repair rather than restore. So I've made that bottom brace plate, whatever you want to call it, level, and I'll start putting the weatherboards back up. This side is now all pretty much done to my satisfaction, and it's far more secure than what it used to be. This side I have reattached some of these boards. I need to redo them to make them perfect, or as perfect as I possibly can. And down the bottom where the dog is, I've got that board replaced. It's made that floor a whole lot more stable. I just need to put a couple of bricks under it to level it off. The stumps are pretty much toast. The ones on the side I've just done were completely non-existent. In fact, this was the corner stump. Next to no good at all. So in light of what I'm trying to do is just to repair it, not to renovate it. I've put some bricks under there. That'll keep it there pretty much for as long as we're around. Done the same there. I will need to replace this board here. It's got some white ants damage, and those stumps there are probably a bit munted as well, but I'll sort those out shortly. I'm using this car jack that I found in the shed. I'm going to just level off this beam and then attack these two stumps, and then I can finish off this bit of work here. Just pulled a couple of bits of the weatherboard off and found the remains of an old book. And I think it might be a Jack and Jill book, because it says, "Then Jack got the pail too. Somebody Nell's hand, and they ran up the something with a splash and a shake." Maybe it's Jack and Nell. I don't particularly like using Roundup, but I hate double G's even more.
Well, this is our school from the air. You can see the old septic tank on the left hand side and the concrete pad where the old shed was that I removed all the asbestos from. And as we move backwards, you can see what was once the old fire shed for Ardith. And now we're over the oval and you can see the old cricket pitch. I think the previous owners might have used this as a racetrack as well.
This is our little mystery room. Double wooden doors, metal slats. Up that end, slats with fly screen on it. Very nice wood. Around the edge it's a raised concrete sill with capping on it, and then the Jarrah boards. And in the middle we've got two concrete blocks. This one's had something mounted to it, and there's a spill tray around this one here. It looks too clean to be a generator, but I don't really know. Over there is a hole through the wall which lines up with this concrete block. And yesterday I managed to get power onto the shed. All I had to do was replace the circuit breaker. And I don't know how long ago this was, but someone's left their initials up there, TMADH. I've got no idea what this was used for, whether a generator or a pump room. Any ideas? Let us know. So at last I've got the weatherboards back on this side again. It doesn't look too bad. I'm not a carpenter, and using 100-year-old wood, that's turned out pretty good. Had to replace a few uprights with modern timber, which are not quite the same size. And in here I've just got to replace this internal sheet, and it will be pretty much all straight and level once I've got all the battens and things back on. Julie's little office.
After 6 days of being here at our school doing some repairs, it's time to pack up and head off home. It's a peaceful and quiet spot and brings a great sense of peace.